everybody, in this video we're going to talk about compound inequalities, and specifically we're going to graph and or situations. Okay, so let's talk about what a compound inequality is. It is a pair of inequalities joined by the word and or. So when we have an or inequality, we have x is less than 6 or x is greater than 10, we are going to graph both of those inequalities and shade them both on our number line. So or kind of means both. In the other situation, our and inequalities, for example, we have x is greater than or equal to 3 and x is greater than 0, we are going to shade the overlap. So we're going to graph both of them, and our answer or our solution set is going to be only where those two graphs overlap. So let's look at an example. When we're graphing, we're going to figure out, do we have an and or an or? Then we're going to graph both the equalities on the number line, and then we're going to write the solution set, which is just another way of saying the answer. Okay, so here's our first example. We have x is less than or equal to -1 or x is greater than 2. So we think about that word or. Or means we're going to shade all that is covered. So we're going to first take x is less than or equal to -1. So it has a closed circle going to the left. Greater than 2 is an open circle going to the right. And we're going to shade all of it. So now we're going to need to write this in inequality notation or as an interval. In this case, we're going to write it as an interval. So I'm going to say, how far to the left does this graph go? Well, it goes all the way to -infinity. It comes all the way up to -1. -1 is included. Then it kind of skips this middle part and then goes to the right forever. So this is how we're going to graph it. We're going to graph just the same thing on the number line. And then for our interval, we're going to have a parenthesis with -infinity, comma, -1. So we're going to look at this kind of separately. This U is a union, so it's like gluing both of those pieces together, meaning, hey, I'm going from -infinity to -1. I'm skipping over this middle part, and then I start up again at 2. It has a parenthesis because it's an open circle and goes all the way to the right to infinity. So when you have a break in your graph, you are going to use the union symbol to symbolize that break. So this was an or, meaning we shaded everything. Now let's go ahead and look at an and. So this says x is less than or equal to 4 and x is greater than 1. So first step always, we're going to determine if we have an and or an or. Because we have an and, we're going to shade the overlap. We're going to graph both of the inequalities separately. So x is less than or equal to 4, closed circle going to the left. X is greater than 1 going to the right. Now this is where the and is important. I am only going to shade my overlap. So when I'm doing this on scratch paper, I like to kind of graph them both above the number line because my answer on the number line is just going to be that overlap. So y'all see how this has an open circle here? If it is not closed, then you need to include that open. So that's 1 has a parenthesis, and then it goes all the way to 4. 4 is closed, so I need a bracket. So that's kind of how you do your ands or your ors. And lastly, I want to go over some special cases. So for example, if you had an and there was no overlap, like the two inequalities did not overlap, that is an example of no solution. That's okay. You're just going to write no solution and move on. The other option is that you have an or, and literally everything is covered from -infinity to +infinity. So in this case, even though this is open, remember we're not doing the overlap, we're doing everything that's included. We're going to say all real numbers. You can also write -infinity to +infinity. Sometimes you'll see the symbol, just an uppercase R if you're writing it. I will accept either. So you can either write all real numbers or you can write the -infinity to +infinity here. Okay, there's your overview on compound inequalities. If y'all have questions, come find me. If not, I'll see y'all in the next one.